Okay, I want just to mention some points. Please, if you want to speak or if you want to ask, just raise your hand. I am going to choose from the people or the students, they are raising their hands. Let us to respect other opinion, and let's us to discuss in the discussion time. So let us to start with Mr. Philip, and he will start his presentation. Start, Mr. Philip.
Yes.
It's yours.
Thank you very much to Mrs. Amani and to the students who are participating, and also welcome to all the people who are listening as well. I hope that in the last presentation that you got some useful practice for English, and today I am going to, when I was going to start the screen sharing, today I'm going to give some tips about learning English, and I'll start my screen in a second. Now let me just see. And yes, so also just before I share, if any of the students here today have any questions also that you would like to cover, then please write it in the chat window, as Mrs. Amani has said before, and then I'm happy to answer those questions. And if we don't get onto any of them, then we can do that afterwards. So as I mentioned, I was just going to quickly introduce myself. So I'm a native speaker from England. I was born and went to school in England, and first started teaching English about 25 years ago with breaks. So I haven't been teaching continuously during that time. And I've been teaching online. I started actually 14 years ago. Right, very strange with the microphone. It didn't change. Anyway, who knows what happened. Right. So today I'm going to give some tips about learning English, and I'm using an acronym, British Ing, and each of these will hopefully be for each of the 10 tips. Also, if anyone wants to get in touch with me, my email is here, info@englishteacherphilip.com, and you can just email me easily that way. Okay, so it's just my name and then info@englishteacherphilip.com. Right, okay, let's proceed. So the first thing, and I'm just going to keep an eye on time, the first thing to be aware of in English, or one of the first things, there are many of course, so in no particular order, is be aware of the differences between British and American English. Now, this of course is decreasing quite a lot because of TV and radio and the internet, which is going to have a lot of American English and not so much British English. So, however, we do still have some spelling differences. So, American English is a bit more simplified. They will write color, C-O-L-O-R, and we will write C-O-L-O-U-R, and they will have different phrases, and so on. And of course, the accent as well is important for speaking. Now, within America and within the UK, there are certainly within the UK and within America probably quite widely as well. There are many different accents, and However, I think the accents are becoming less at the moment. But even still, if you go to Liverpool or Northern Ireland or the north of Scotland, you may get some very strong accents. And also in America, there are still some strong accents. But as I said, I studied this topic actually at university about 20, in a university course I was doing on this topic actually, American and British English, about 22 years ago or something like that. Now, excuse me, I'm just going to check. Hope there's not a message. No, that's fine, just in case everyone can hear me. So, but probably from 22 years ago, the accents were not that significant many times, and even now it's probably much less with the internet and so on. Right, okay, so that's the first step there. And then in English, we have an expression, which is Rome was not built in a day, and keep trying. So there's an expression in English. Sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. Okay, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Sorry, I'm not doing very well today. Let me see. I wonder why that is not right. Hopefully you can see my screen. So I'll come back here. So this was the first slide. And in fact, that was the first slide. Info at English Teacher and British Eng is the acronym. And so be aware of the difference between American and British English. And Rome was not built in a day. So keep trying. And anyway, oh, that's very strange. I thought I was sharing. I'm not sure how it stopped, but okay, never mind. I can only do my best. Not always right. Okay, so the next tip is don't worry about sounding perfect. Or maybe I forgot to reshare again, so excuse me if I did. So it's not important to sound perfect. Many times, you know, people may want to sound exactly like a native speaker, but that is not always realistic. Don't worry too much if whether you sound, you know, exactly like someone from the BBC News or something like that. You know, it can take many years to get a zero accent, as it were, or native accent. So, you know, work on being functional, but don't worry about sounding perfect, because it's going to take years and years, and maybe then even not 100%. You know, even if you lived in England for example, 10 years or 5 years or something, you still may hear the difference. Try using English every day. So there's actually an expression in English which is use it or lose it. And I guess which means that if you don't keep practicing something, you'll start to forget it. And maybe the opposite is true. If you practice something every day, you'll get better. So keep trying every day. You know, just try and do something every day, which is helpful. So you don't have to do it every day. You know, it could be 5 or 6 days a week. You know, if you want a day off, that's of course normal. But anyway, if you can, try doing it every day.
Practice makes perfect, right?
Practice, yes, exactly right. So Mrs. Omani has said exactly the right phrase there. So practice makes perfect, and which is a very typical expression in English for this good, very applicable. So practice makes perfect, and the more you practice, the better you will hopefully get. Right. Okay. So also it can help to learn the phonetic symbols in English. So I think that for Arabic speakers like yourselves, you kind of seem to have you seem to be able to speak English very well with a very good accent. Mostly Arabic speakers I've met during the last 14 years teaching online. So for whatever reason, some similarity, you know, some assistance with Arabic speakers for learning English, you just generally have quite a good accent compared to, you know, people from France or Italy or something like that. Seek out useful resources. So you're in it sounds like a fantastic school you're in at the moment. So I'm sure you got lots of very enthusiastic and helpful teachers like I've met so far, and so it seems a very positive learning environment. So ask your teachers for help, ask your friends for help, maybe if they, or you can tell your friends if you have any good websites, and so on. So just keep, maybe there's some good videos on YouTube your friends can recommend, or something like that. Okay, try to practice with your friends and family. So maybe if you go home, if your parents, for example, your father or your mother, work in a business which uses English and they may know English quite well, maybe you can ask them to practice with you or with your friends. Maybe with your friends you don't want to you just want to be young, you don't want to be learning kind of thing. But maybe you like it. I don't know. So, but it's a good way to practice, right? If you practice with your friends, then something I've heard actually is that a university, which I'm doing another degree course at the moment, a degree level course at the moment. But I've heard that people who kind of make groups with friends in their class and practice will make the fastest improvement. So practice with your family, practice with your friends. Maybe you can say, we're going to do just the same thing, but we're not going to speak Arabic. We're going to speak English, and so that can be a good. Okay, exams will help you to see your level. So I guess most people didn't like exams, or I didn't when I was younger. I do kind of like them when I'm an adult now, but university. But because I think they're quite useful, they can kind of be a goal that you can set. So maybe some of you have heard of perhaps the IELTS exam. So if you're going to be studying in another country, you may need to take the IELTS exam, or TOEFL exam maybe as well as another option, or other ones. So try and give yourself a goal. Maybe like, I'm going to take the IELTS exam and I'm going to try and get 6.5 or 7, for something university entrance, could be good. So I know a lot of students don't like exams, but actually they're quite useful. So in your school, you may not like exams always, but afterwards you may see that really they help to motivate you and to make you study quickly or faster. Native speakers can help you to improve if you can practice with them. So if you can kind of maybe from your school, maybe you can do language exchange perhaps with other schools in the world. And you can say, you can maybe get like a web camera in each classroom, and half the class you speak in Arabic. If students in America are learning Arabic, for example, and then half the class you're speaking English, so you'll practice with them, in Australia or something like that. Could be a nice thing I've heard of before. Or you can just try and practice with friends. But of course, there are very, I think you should, definitely you should check with your parents before you meet people online, because you've heard all the stories, I'm sure, in the newspapers. So you just don't know who the people will be. So check with them, maybe try and speak with their parents, your parents can meet their parents. I wouldn't recommend at all just trying to meet anybody online. You just have no idea who these people are. It can be anybody. So just, of course, you need to be sensible. I'm sure you've probably been told that at school. Okay, and finally, try to make goals. So set a goal and make a plan, and then start working. Stick to the goal, stick to the plan, just keep going, and obviously you can improve it. And then when you've reached the goal, for example, being able to speak with my friend from America or something, fluently or conversationally, maybe not fluently, then you can say, okay, I'm going to learn 20 new words to try and use this week, maybe make a goal every week, like learning 50 words, 100 words. And most of my students who I've taught online for over 10 years now, the ones who make goals and try and improve as fast as possible these are the students that improve the fastest. So, and okay, and then my encouragement to you just generally is keep trying, and you know, if you don't give up, and I'm sure hopefully none of you will, because you're young, enthusiastic, then if you don't give up and you keep trying, set goals, then hopefully you know, you will have some good success. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much, Mr. Philip. Are you ready? Yes, Mr. Ahmed.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Ahmed, please.
How did the BBC as an organization help keep the accent of the or as British accent, or they try to keep the accent of the Londoners or the people of London?
Yes, that's an excellent question, Mr. Ahmed. And actually, and I think I possibly studied this about, as I said in my university course, about 22 years ago, or somewhere else, somewhere along the line I've studied this, and for American British English. And I think that in English, there's something called received pronunciation, which is the kind of the BBC traditional, you know, accent. And now there's also something, I remember from my English course, or one of my English modules at university many years ago, there's also something called, I think it's maybe called estuary English. And that refers to the River Thames, as I was mentioning last class. And estuary English is you know, the Thames estuary, presumably, or sort of these rivers in that area, or something like that. I'm not sure exactly from memory, but basically that's sort of the Southern English. So for myself, I was born in, actually, I was born where I am, quite close to where I am now, but then I was living in I went below London, which is slightly more southern accent, more BBC probably. And then I went to private school, so we kind of have, again, more of a received pronunciation. It's, you know, it's clearly a little bit different. People can tell many times that I was from private school, and then I went to university and went around the world, and then maybe my accent became more neutral. So yes, now on the BBC, there is more of an emphasis for using the regional accents. There were maybe it was thought that it was a little bit elitist, you know, a little bit trying to make, you know, kind of higher and low level according to accent a little bit. But I think, so it's maybe not, you know, about 50 years ago, it would be much more received pronunciation, like you know, the Queen's kind of style.
Exactly.
But even actually, interestingly, even the Queen has apparently changed her style of speaking. So it used to be very, sound very elitist, but it's kind of more, slightly more neutral now. So you can tell it's a different style of speech. But if you listen to a recording, you know, 70, 80 years ago when she was a teenager or something, then she really sounds, you know, kind of like kind of extreme accent. So the BBC, I think, is moving away a little bit from, you know, has moved away a lot, even the royal family and people in society. But I think they're still there in the BBC. They're still maintaining sort of a fairly received pronunciation, like typical style. So I think it's probably intentional, you know, maybe, or it's consciously or unconsciously. I think it's being maintained because people do have different accents, and it could very easily change to any style, like a London accent, Cockney or something could very easily change. So I think it's intentional, and you know, they kind of have a standard, and it's gone away from the standard a little bit, which originally it was. but I think it's kind of a cultural kind of intention. So they're actually trying to intentionally sort of keep this accent as part of our national identity. But it's yes, it's very good question, Mr. Ahmed.
We have here
Thank you.
Muhammad Sroor. Where is Muhammad? Muhammad Sroor. Okay. He's asking, what's the most famous differences between American and British accent? Thank you.
Yes. So what are the? Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen.
He couldn't open his mic. It's okay, Muhammad. Mr. Philip now will answer your question. What is the most famous differences between American and British accent, Mr. Philip?
Yes. I mean, having done a course 22 years ago, I remember back then, as I maybe mentioned already, that there are dialects in America and in regional dialects in America and in the UK. And I think actually 22 years ago, we were even taught in the class that there's something, I think it's maybe called Ebonics or something like that. I'm not quite sure if I got the right name, which is actually the slaves who came from Africa, went to America, and they still maintained the, I think it's called Creole, but also maybe another name. And they still maintain the slave language. So just to give you an idea, that there were huge differences. However, if you sort of go to the main cities in America back then, and probably much more now, it's going to be more. I've got the. I'm not quite sure. I remember the term. It's sort of like CNN English or something like that. So it's kind of quite fairly neutral, and then also for the UK, we got the similar situation. Like a lot of people now were speaking quite similar to me, and my accent is quite neutral. So yeah, I mean in terms of the regional dialects, they're very different. Like in Scotland and maybe Liverpool, and then maybe in, for example, Texas, they have the Texas twang, is it? So I think that probably there's a lot of similarity, and also somehow having taught English, a lot of English teachers actually their accent becomes a little bit unusual. So even for myself, my accent is a little bit American, probably, and I have been asked before, am I from America? So yes, so I think that in terms of the differences, maybe there aren't that many in terms of mainstream American and mainstream British. I know that in the movies it may seem like everyone has quite a strong accent, perhaps in America or England, but those are sort of gangsters, maybe Samuel L. Jackson. And probably in reality, it's very easy for people to understand each other. It's quite similar. So I'm not sure, all the, I mean, I have studied probably quite a lot of this before, but I'm not, so I mean, there are various differences in the, vowel sounds or whatever. I could go back and analyze all that again, perhaps. But I think that to some extent it's quite similar, and we don't have any issues understanding each other. And even sometimes people may think I'm American, so but that's maybe slightly specific to an English teacher.
Thank you, Mr. Philip. Here we have Adam Ali. He has a question. Yes, Adam, welcome.
Hello, Mr. Philip. Hello, teacher.
Hello.
First thing, I ask question. My dad had a British friend. He speaks British. Once I hear him talking, and he talk in a way. First thing, he make all of the letter bigger when he talk. and he talk in a way I'm not can understand all of the word that he say. He speak British. You know, the two word that I can understand, it's but and okay. You know, are you talking in this way to make us understand what you say?
Yes, I mean, because I've, started English teaching 25 years ago, then my accent has become more automatic to help people to understand what I'm saying. But if you listen to the BBC News, probably my accent is, or my style of speaking is quite similar to the BBC. So again, they're going to be enunciating sounds in a clear way. However, and people who aren't trained as an English teacher or haven't worked as an English teacher, they may speak faster or with more of an accent a little bit, but probably my accent is really not that different to a lot of speakers. But as native speakers, actually, we link the sounds together. So, for example, if I'm speaking in an easy way, I would say, can I have a cup of tea? And then as native speakers, we link the sounds together. So it'll be, can I have a cup of tea? Can I have a cup of tea? And then, so the first, if I'm in a restaurant, I may say, oh, can I have a cup of tea, please? And then when I was teaching in class, can I have a cup of tea? Then this is probably very easy for people to understand. But if I'm speaking more casually in a hotel where there's native speakers, maybe then I would just speak in a faster way. So what I'd actually say is that the having taught, speaking online for 14 years now, the most important thing, or the thing that students find the most useful, typically for speaking, is linking the words together. So we will link a consonant sound ending word onto a vowel sound. So can I? So it's not can I, and then we also link together vowels to vowels. So you are, and actually we add in a W sound, so we can add in a couple of extra sounds as well. So what I'll actually do is I can give a very good website for that, where I actually maybe came across this, about 10 years ago or whatever, or more perhaps. And it's called englishclub.com, and it's a very nice free website. And I'll put that in the chat. So if you go onto englishclub.com, and anyone can email Mrs. Amani, I guess, or any Mr. Ahmed or whoever, if you want the link, and I'll put it here in the chat window, or but I really recommend having a look there. And this will go into the linking sounds. So as native speakers, we link the sounds together. And actually, what I'll just do is I'll just try and share my screen at the moment. And because I'll just show the example I was talking about before. This is the website. So, okay, everyone can get it if you freeze the video.
Englishclub.com.
Yes, very nice website. And it's actually a free website. And it's probably the #1 free website in the world, independent websites. So, for example, for native speakers, non-native speakers, they would say, can I have a bit of egg? And then a native speaker, and a lot of people laugh when I say it, would be, can I have a bit of egg, please? And you're kind of thinking, well, are you still speaking in English? Or something, maybe. So as native speakers, we link the words together. And a lot of very advanced English speakers, they've never come across this before. I'm really surprised always, every time almost, that they haven't been taught it at school. But for myself, I think this is the kind of just about the most important thing to learn English for speaking, linking the sounds together. So I'd really recommend everyone to have a go at that. And it takes a long time to learn it. So, you can write out a paragraph and put in the links. And then also we have vowel to vowel So for example, pay your, we had a Y, and then the example here, go out, we had a W. So we also had Y and W's in English. Very, very interesting area of English. Students really like studying this as well. It takes a long time to get good. So yes, coming back to Adam's question, if you can't understand what people are saying, Adam, maybe they're linking the sounds together and speaking at quite high speed, and then it just sounds like a foreign language.
Okay, Mr. Philip, before we go to Zaina, Zaina wants to ask, but before we go to Zaina, we will hear from Dima. Dima has something to share with us, Mr. Philip, if you excuse us. Dima, where's Dima?
Yes.
Dima, are you ready?
Yes.
Zaina, I'm gonna answer you later, but please just 5 minutes to listen to Dima. Yes, Dima. Okay, thank you. Yes, Dima.
Yes.
Share your PowerPoint. Share it with full screen. Yes, thank you.
How to improve your speaking skill by me. First of all, we can always use technology. In the 21st century, technology can be used for everything. You can use your phone or laptop to either find the tips on the internet, or you can record yourself and listen to it later and see what you can change about it. There are also a lot of apps on your phone that can be used to teach you English, and a lot of more other languages. And also you can meet new people around the world on social media who are English speakers, and you can improve your grammar skills by practicing writing and adding new words to your vocabulary. But as Mr. Phillips said, you can't trust everyone, so you have to know the person a little bit. You can also always use the other skills of English, other 3 known skills to improve your speaking, which are reading, listening, and writing. With reading, by this skill, you'll improve your grammar skills, and you can also read aloud and improve your pronunciation of the words. By listening, you can listen to lecturers and native speakers and take notes from the way they're speaking. And by writing, you can kind of arrange your thoughts and feelings, and you can also use punctuation, which can help you know when to stop and all of that stuff. And the skills are connected, as you can see here in this picture. If you want to learn one skill, you have to learn the others to always improve it. Watching movies and shows. Something that helped me improve my speaking skill is watching movies and shows, and this way you can listen to other people talking and also learn new words. And the good thing is you don't have to only watch American, British shows. You can watch any show, Spanish, Arabic, and you can use English subtitles, or you can watch it dubbed. And of course you have to practice. You can try speaking with your family and friends in English for a day. You can record yourself speaking for 10 minutes every day. You can try teaching someone else. You can learn new information. You can you give someone some of your skills. And remember that expert in anything was once a beginner, and practice makes perfect. Now the 4 speaking skills you possess when you practice and do all the tips I gave you are fluency, vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. Yeah. And how does speaking well help you? Speaking well boosts your confidence. It gives you more opportunities later in life, like jobs and college and everything. Improves your communication skills and gives you personal satisfaction. Builds your leadership skills and develops your vocabulary and fluency. Thank you for listening and have a nice day. Thank you for listening.
Okay.
Thank you. Great.
I have a quick question for Dima. And Dima, what, or maybe, yes, so maybe, right. My question for Dima is, which area of English do you find easiest, and which area of English do you find most difficult, and why do you find it easiest, and why do you find it most difficult?
Excuse me, Mr. Philip. If you want to answer this question, please raise your hand. Yes, yes, Dima.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Repeat the question, please, Mr.
Yes.
Philip.
So the question is, which area of English do you find easiest, and which area of English do you find most difficult, and why do you find it easy, and why do you find it difficult?
Yes, let's start with Dima.
For me, the easiest has to be reading or listening, because you just don't have to use a lot of, because they're easy. But for me, the hardest would be speaking, because I get nervous.
Yes.
So the easiest skill for you, Dima, is reading, and the hardest one is speaking.
Yes.
Okay, Zena.
What I'd say to you, was it Dima, speaking again, what I'd say, Dima, is when you speak, you're speaking quite a fast speed, probably faster than native speakers would speak. Now, your English is obviously excellent, it sounds excellent, and what I'd say is try to speak a bit more slower, kind of think more about giving a speech rather than kind of the speed you may speak with your friends in Arabic on the phone or something, or in your school. So try and speak a little bit slower, and then that will make it appear more professional. Because although you were speaking quite fast and very accurately, which is amazing, it can kind of give the impression that you're not confident, even if you're actually quite good at English like you are. So yes, try and speak a little bit slower, and that will kind of give more sort of authority when you're speaking to the listener, and they may think that you are more confident. Even if you're confident when you're speaking fast, they may misinterpret it.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Philip. Thank you, Dima. Zena has a question, and she wants also to answer your question. So yes, Zena Yahya.
Yes. I'm sorry if there's a noise with my mic, but it's not perfect. I wanted to ask Mr. Philip about his experience with another students from different countries and different accents.
Okay, I got the question. I think I read the question, but I kind of got it. It's my experience with different students from different countries. Yeah, I think that every sort of country has different issues, maybe. But I think that Arabic speakers, they all seem to have similar sort of similarly easy to speak actually in English for the accent. But I have taught students from other countries who have a strong accent, like from Italy, and we're really to focus on that a lot because it was just extremely clear. So I suppose that students will have, some students will find English easier or more difficult in different areas. But I think Arabic or Russian, the alphabet is totally different, perhaps. So, although I don't speak in Arabic, of course. So I think that every country will have like easier areas and more difficult areas. Probably every country will have some areas easier and some harder. And maybe it's a good idea to speak, to an experienced teacher like Mrs. Armani or other teachers in your school, and actually try and find out, in my specific situation, as an Arabic learner, for example, what are, from Jordan even, if there's going to be a difference, what are specific issues that we have for learning English to make it harder, and then also what do we find easiest? So you can try and prioritize the hard areas, and try and work on that more. Of course, you need to also work on the easy areas as well to make sure they're good. But that's, it's maybe it's nice to have a plan. So if you can do research and then find out, what is going to be easiest and hardest as an Arabic speaker. For example, pronunciation, from having taught, maybe hundreds of Arabic speakers online over the last 14 years, then a lot of people don't have issues with pronunciation. So maybe it's going to be some other issue, but I've got to say, Arabic speakers, they do seem to learn English quite fast. So I'm not sure the reason. I don't speak Arabic, but maybe it's something to do with the way you learn Arabic.
Let me tell you something, Mr. Philip. Arabic language has lots of similar sounds with English language. Because of that, so we have F in English and we have F in Arabic, we have S in English, we have S. So we don't have any problem with the pronunciation, the words in English, because we have similar sounds in Arabic. Because of that, Arab learner actually is the fastest learner in English. Because of that, yeah.
That's kind of my experience.
Yeah, and we have Selma here. Selma has a question.
Teacher.
Yes, Selma.
I think that the writing is the hardest one for me because there are many silent letters in English.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so she said that the writing skill is the most difficult skill. And we have Iman. Iman, you may answer.
Teacher,
yeah.
I think it's the pronunciation of some of the words, like, wait, I forgot the words. Like, مثلا, some of the long words that we use, زي adjectives and stuff, they really hard to pronounce.
Mm-hmm. So you think pronunciation is very hard to you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Mr. Philip?
Yeah, I mean, what I can say is even though some of the students here are obviously quite young, but for example, Dima, was speaking very clearly, very easily, it's very easy to understand, probably even for most native speakers who even haven't spoken to an Arabic person before. So, but yes, there's a very nice website. It's called Phonetics Focus, and I'll put it in the chat window, or if you just search Phonetics Focus, and it's from Cambridge University. I'll try not to mute myself. I don't know how I did that last time, but yes. So, but this is a very nice website, and Phonetics Focus, and
yes,
Cambridge. Yes,
Cambridge
but the thing about English is that it's not a phonetic language. So I think, as far as I've heard, Arabic is a phonetic language. You can look at the words and you know how it sounds, such as French, such as Japanese. So yeah, it's kind of just a challenge, But I guess that the more letters and patterns you see, the better you'll get at pronouncing the words. However, in English, there are a lot of irregular sounds. For example, O-U-G-H, cough, though, so off, though. So just depending on the specific word, the same letters are totally different. So that's something as, I guess, speaking a phonetic language, like Arabic, perhaps, where you can read the word and you know the pronunciation. That's something you've got to, obviously, all the time, have your, English radar kind of thing when you're learning. Don't automatically think you know how to pronounce it. You may need to look in a dictionary, and there are audio dictionaries online for free. You can just, and also you can learn phonetics. So like the link I gave here, that will then help to read the word in a dictionary, the phonetic spelling. So that's quite useful. So yeah, it's a challenge for learning English. So I think just the main thing is be aware, but a lot of the sounds are similar in similar situations, not always, of course. So when you come across a new sound, You know, make sure, however, to go to the dictionary, make sure you got the correct pronunciation. For example, OUGH, I think, has about 8, perhaps, or even maybe more different pronunciations, but it's the same letters. So, you know, so it's a challenge for learning English. But you know, maybe Mrs. Amani or some of your friends who've got in your class who've got other suggestions. So I mean, basically there are some rules I've read for pronunciation, but a lot of it is just memory, basically.
Nice, thank you. So Mr. Philip so far provided us with 2 links. They are in the chat window. You can go and open it after the meeting. So the first one is for pronunciation, and the second one is for phonics. It's cambridgeenglishonline.com/phonetics focus. Excellent. So you can open it from the chat window. So we have here Lean or Leanne, I think. Leanne.
Yes, teacher.
Leanne, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to answer the previous question. I think the easiest is watching TV shows and movies, because I do watch a lot of it. It really helped. And the hardest is maybe speaking, because I'm kind of a shy person, and sometimes I really get nervous when I talk. So yeah.
Actually, this is the most problem with our students getting nervous while they are talking, even in the videos, even in the classes. What is your advice, Mr. Philip, to our students?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, and you know, even when I teach one-to-one students online, sometimes they're very nervous speaking, and I just say, "Come on, it's just you and me. How can you?" Or I think it anyway. But I think the main thing is that remember, nobody knows everything. I'm a native teacher. I don't know everything. You know, your teachers. We're all humans. We couldn't make mistakes and whatever. And maybe sometimes we look a little bit, you know, we look a little bit funny when we make a mistake. But actually, the goal of learning English is more important than if sometimes you look a little bit funny in class. So, you know, you can't stop your whole career just in case someone laughs or you're not sure or something like that. All I gotta say is just set your mind on the goal, and then try not to take it too seriously. Of course, it's important, but it's not. If you make a mistake, it doesn't mean something important. It just means you can try and do better next time. And then try and like have fun. You know, the student was mentioning about watching TV or movies. So if there's some good TV or movies or whatever, then you can watch that. And then, you know, the best way to, my experience, and maybe other teachers have different opinions, the best way to learn a language or maybe anything is really to kind of almost forget you're learning it and just kind of have fun using it. So in class, you can play an interesting activity, do an interesting activity, which is valuable for learning English, but then you're kind of having fun and it's interesting. Then you can almost forget you're working or you're studying, and it just becomes a fun activity. And then, you know, then you can kind of learn faster, and the mind will work better, I think, probably.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Philip. Here we have Selma asked, how can you learn new words? I'll answer this question, and I'm gonna ask for your advice, Mr. Philip. My advice to learn new words is to read. Reading is very important part in your life. Reading is very important to learn how to pronounce the words, how to learn new words. You may find new words, and then you have to search about the meaning or translate it in your own or mother tongue, and so on. So my advice to you, if you want to improve your language and you want to learn new words, you have to read more. What do you think, Mr. Philip?
Yes, I think that's correct, Mrs. Amani. Reading is very useful. What I would say is that learning a language or doing learning any.
You're muted.
You are
Someone
muted.
has to
Definitely.
mute.
Oh, okay, that was automatic. So, yes, excuse me. So I think it's some setting on Microsoft Teams. If we don't speak, it turns off automatically, right? Maybe. Learning English is, or learning anything, is maybe a bit like a rope. So it's kind of, a rope is made out of many pieces of string. And so I think the more different ways you can kind of learn or challenge your minds with learning a language like English is perhaps the best. So you can read, you can watch movies, you can talk to your friends. So some areas will be more important than others, and I think reading is very useful. You can, for example, then have a notepad on the computer or paper, and then make notes of when you're coming across new words. Also, one of the fastest students who ever improved with me, maybe about 10 years ago or something like that, was a student, or maybe not quite so many years ago, or 6 or 7 or something, perhaps, was a student who who kind of improved very fast, about 1 or 2 weeks. And I said to them, you know, well, what did you do? I mean, because we've only had a few classes, how did you improve from kind of fairly beginner to kind of, you know, upper beginner, lower intermediate or something like that? And he said that he made a goal and he was learning like a large number of words every week. So, you know, there are apps online for memorizing vocabulary. But yeah, so I think what Mrs. Amani said about reading is obviously very important. And also what you can do is make yourself a goal, as I was saying in my presentation, like this week I'm going to try and learn 20 words, next week 25 words, you know, whatever. And then practice writing them out in example sentences, using them for your homework, things like that. And yeah, so set goals, I think is very useful, and try and sort of make it a scientific process. And remember, in English, we only speak about 2,000 words every day, I've heard. So you don't need to learn like, you know, 10,000 words to kind of get good at English, maybe just 2,000.
Yeah, the last question here, actually we have 2 students, we don't have much time, but Yusuf said or asked you, Mr. Philip, I have a little issue that I can't evoke grammar rules while speaking. What shall he do?
Yes, it's a very good question. So what I'd say is that when you're speaking in English, just go around the mountain, not over the mountain, kind of is the expression. So if you're using English and you're not sure how to say something like in the past continuous tense or whatever structure you wanted to use something you can use. For example, the present simple or past simple or whatever, something much more easy to use. And then build on that. So if you're not sure about the grammar structure, try and use something easier in a simple way. And then, of course, you need to learn grammar. And actually, the web link I gave before has very good, englishclub.com has very good grammar section for free also on the website. Actually, when I started teaching online about 14 years ago, I think fairly soon after, I started using that website a lot to teach, but also to kind of memorize all the grammar theory, because as a native speaker, we don't learn it automatically, of course. So it's a very nice website for that. Quite simple. Yeah, so just try and say things in a simple way. And normally you can say things in a simple way, and then try and build on that. But the main thing is communicating, right? So whether you say something in a simple way or a difficult way, it may make a difference to your test, of course, but in regular English and practice, then you know, the more that you can practice using English in a simple way, this is all that's needed. And then you can build on learning, for example, visiting englishclub.com, learning structures, learning phrases, memorizing them, making a goal every week to learn 1 tense a week or the 12 basic tenses and so on. So yeah, so don't worry, I'd say it doesn't matter, actually, as long as you can communicate in a simple way. It may make a difference in the test, of course, but at school. But in regular English, if you say something in a simple way or a complicated way with grammar structures, you're still saying the same information, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, so the last question here we have from Hashim, just 2 minutes, Mr. Philip. Hashim has 2 comments actually. The first one, he said, do you believe that English teachers should be native speakers? If not, what do you think the minimum requirements of the English teacher should be? Or
Okay,
he means should have.
Yes, so it's a controversial question. So as your English teacher is here, but okay, but I'm sure you meant that in a positive way, of course, hopefully. So I mean, the first thing to say is that no English teacher is perfect. You'll never find a perfect English teacher, native or non-native. And actually, non-native teachers, you'll often find them better in some areas, for example, grammar. And as I mentioned, although I started teaching English 25 years ago, when I started teaching online 14 years ago, I actually found students who are quite advanced in English who knew more grammar theory than myself, because I just never really learned it in detail. I didn't realize my weak area there. So I actually spent a few years really learning it a lot intensively, and now I'm better than any students I met since in grammar, normally by a lot in knowledge. So yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of pronunciation, it's going to be harder for a non-native teacher to teach pronunciation. However, as you're Arabic speakers, that's not going to be such an issue. And the other thing is that even for native teachers, for example, I was teaching at a language school last summer, and one of the teachers was from Wales. And she is a native speaker, I guess, and she didn't actually teach pronunciation. She would play a clip or from a dictionary or something online to teach pronunciation. So, definitely non-native teachers can teach. Even native teachers may not have good pronunciation always, and this was an expert teacher. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And actually remember, but it's good to hear accurate pronunciations. You can look online for nice websites with sounds and whatever. But even native speakers don't always have good pronunciation. So, and remember, the main thing is, does the teacher know how to teach? Do they have knowledge about the subject they're teaching? Those are the most important things. So I think maybe 10 or 20 years ago, I would have had maybe a slightly different opinion. But now there's so much technology to kind of hear the perfect pronunciation if you really want to go for that. Yeah. You can listen online, and but also it's all about what are the opportunities. So normally what I'd say is many non-native teachers will be better in some areas than native teachers, such as grammar.
Thank you, Mr. Philip. And we're almost done. Ghazal said, thank you so much, teacher, for this amazing class. I loved it. Thank you. And also, Hashim, you mentioned the importance of reading. What about the role of writing in practice English?
Oh, yeah. So, no, that's good. Yeah, so, as I was mentioning before, you've got a rope and then strings. So, make sure that you're focusing on all areas, I recommend. And because I have met students before who are, for example, very good at speaking and never learnt writing. And you wouldn't know it until they told you or practice. So yeah, so practice all areas, right? It's a chair. A chair has 4 legs. So speaking, writing, reading, listening. So make sure that you have all the legs before you sit on the chair.
And for me, is the best banner here is perfect. Is to practice makes perfect. Mm-hmm. It's really.
Sir, I'm sorry to disturb. I have a question.
Who is talking?
Hiba.
Hiba, yes, Hiba.
I've been having trouble lately with memorizing new words. Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips on how to memorize it?
Yes, that's a great question, Hiba. Now, I'm sure Mrs. Amani will have many different tips, suggestions. So one thing is I quite like using an app. So you can put in the vocabulary and then it tests you automatically. And something else I've heard about, but I haven't tried, is using Post-it notes. You can kind of write maybe the Arabic on one side, the English on the other, and put them all around you, and then look at that and then turn it over. There's also another very nice website for sort of basic English, which is called languageguide.org, and I'll put that in the chat here. And if I manage to see what I'm doing there. So yes, okay, so if you go to that website there, and then you can set British English, and then you can actually go through, and then that will test you on with audio. So you kind of put your mouse over the picture, and then, you know, I mean, I can quickly maybe show just for sort of 10 seconds or something like that. If I manage to share my screen. Okay, so for example here, you know, if I want to learn about fruit and apple, right? So for example, and actually in a language school last year, I had a nice game, but maybe you can't do this with the epidemic, but I kind of put this on the screen, and then I would say to there'd be two teams, and each one student has to come up to the front, and then I'll say to the when I was teaching offline in summer last year, and then I would say, okay, watermelon, and then the first student who kind of puts their hand on the screen on the, but that's maybe after COVID, but that's a nice activity, and then you can kind of actually do like speaking. What's this? So you say banana or peel. Okay, banana peel. Okay, but for example, so yeah, so this is a very nice website, and I've given the link in the chat. So yeah, all I'd say is try and make it fun, you know, interesting. Try and make it like a game. You know, I'm learning Greek at the moment, so I try and use apps to try and make it kind of interesting, although I'm quite motivated. But yeah, just sort of look at different strategies, and if one thing you're finding difficult doing what you're trying to do, try and do something else.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Philip, again. Thank you all. I recommend you to visit all the websites that Mr. Philip shared with us. And thank you, Mr. Philip. It's our honor to be with us again. And see you next Sunday.
Okay, yes,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Zamani and Mr. Ahmed, and to all the students and listeners. And I wish everybody a great day, and it was a great privilege being here. And okay, have a great day. Take care. All the best. Bye.
Take care. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Philip. Thank you.